northern Ukraine is where the grain maize is planted, that there will be a 40% reduction in maize plantings, which competes with Irish feed wheat. You've got to be sensible and maybe sell some forward, but I wouldn't. You're never dead 5 minutes before you're dead, put it that way. And I think there's more light in the end of the tunnel maybe than we think.
We live in a global world, and none more so in the commodity markets such as wheat, maize and oilseed rapes. What happens in various regions across the world has an influence locally, but also globally. This was hugely evident in the food crisis following the start of the Ukraine war. The events in this part of the world continue to overhang the market today. However, other events unfolding now, are they about to change what this means for the global markets? You are listening to the latest episode of the Tillage Edge with me, Michael Hennessy. We would really appreciate it if you could listen, follow and give us a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. I am joined again today by Jim McCarthy from Romania, who is running a large tract of land in the northeast of the country. Jim comes with a wealth of knowledge about the Black Sea region and how crops are developing, but also about world grain markets. We start chatting about the weather effects over the past few months in Romania.
The Orthodox Easter was this weekend, and it just rained continuously with 3 days rain in a row. The place is in absolute muck. Last in 2021, from September 2021 till the end of June with 175 millimetres of rain. We've had 130 since the 26th of March.
That's a big difference, all right? That's a big difference.
It's incredible. It's incredible, and everywhere, just in muck, But the winter crops are wonderful. We've had winter crops like we never had before.
Well, we're kind of feeling your pain a little bit, Jim, because, as you know, over here it's been an awful wet March, and this week is the kind of the first week or the first few days that people are really kind of getting back out into the land again. But
and what percentage of the spring barley is to be sowed, Michael?
There wouldn't be half it done yet. I'd say there's only about maybe 40% of it, maybe done yet. But you know yourself now, it'll probably all get done in a very short space of time. It'll be done in kind of 10 days anyways, but in a week, maybe even a week, But
oh my God, I didn't think it was as bad as that now.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. There's no beet sown, no maize sown, there's none of those crops sown at all.
About half the beet is sown here. We haven't half our beet sown. We were just starting. We kind of, the 25th of March is our start day for beef because we can feed it in a few days. And the last few days of March are our time to avoid late frosts. And it just started to rain,
Just go back a bit. Were you saying? I know it's been very wet with you there. But were you saying you also had snow not too long ago as well? Did you?
We're the 5th and 6th of April. We had put 3 feet of snow and a blizzard for 36 hours. People trapped in cars all over the place. Normally the Romanians are brilliant keeping the roads open in the snow because they're used to it. But along anywhere where the road is under the fields, they'll put up screens to block the snow from blowing off the fields. But all those have been taken down and all the trucks have been returned with the snow ploughs to the haulage contractors. And this evening it started to snow like it never snowed before. And I could show you videos of we digging our way in with telescopics for an ambulance to hit the guy who was having a heart attack. Things like that. It was ferocious. So can you imagine you getting 3 to 4 feet of snow this time of the year? It
didn't last for too long though, Jim, did it?
That's still in the headlands and places you'll still find snow where there's any shade.
Okay.
It's very slow about leaving, and it's been raining ever since. So like the farm roadways, the dirt roads are just complete because they filled with snow, and they were the last to thaw out, literally.
Sure.
And now it's raining down them continuously. So just getting out to the field, you can't even do that.
Kind of hard to get it right because I remember this time last year we were chatting and you were saying it was phenomenally dry over the whole region, and you were really worried about it. So. And it was phenomenally dry, Michael, on the 25th of March, until the middle of March in some areas. And then but we needed this rain, Michael, because there was so little moisture in the soil. We needed this. And is that recharge now? Is that recharge enough, or was it so heavy that it's not really going to stick around for too long?
Oh, for us it's brilliant because where we've cover crops, and most of the land has cover crops. It was just kept the snow and soaked in the moisture and soaked in the moisture. Okay. And we will really have, there's a very good work out of America on no-till. If you have no-till and versus no-till with a cover crop, you have 70% faster water infiltration with the cover crop. And so that's very important for us. And that's why we're spending making a lot of effort to increase our water infiltration rates.
Yeah, build that up.
One cultivation, half your water infiltration rate.
Okay.
With the shallow cultivation, yeah. So it's a very different situation.
So you could literally now switch across from kind of that wet kind of period into a kind of a dry, hot, getting towards, mid-20s very quickly, could you, Jim? Or is it going to be a bit slower?
We could. And then this is where you've got to be very careful though, Michael, is that you don't start mucking in crops on this heavy land, and then you get 25 degrees for 10 days, and you bake out the top of it.
Yeah.
Particularly now for the sugar beet. So you've got to be very, very careful.
So, by the sound of what you were saying there, Jim, in terms of the snow and the wet and everything like that,
yeah.
in the region and in general sense, a bit further away from yourself and your own farm, what sort of progress has been made? Is everybody pretty much in the same bunker as yourself? No one has much done?
The kind of halfway down Romania is the cut-off point. Southern Romania and Bulgaria haven't had this, but from us north, and all the southern Ukraine has had it. I was speaking to a friend of mine who's farming south of Kiev 2 days ago, and they're doing nothing either. They're sitting, they're rained off. And you'll see it from if you watch any of the war stuff on TV, it's very wet and very mucky there in the Ukraine. But Michael, look, in southern Europe still, the drought goes on. The Iberian Peninsula is very, very dry. A huge part of southern France, very dry. Poland, very dry.
Hasn't gone away anyway. And going back to your own farm then, Jim, in terms of, I know you were saying before, the majority of your crops are aimed towards the spring rather than the winter. How much of the spring crops have you got in, or how much is left to go? Maybe?
None. We've 100 hectares of sugar beet.
Okay.
In the ground, and all the rest. So we have about 10,000, 400 or 500 hectares to seed. We have the wheat, winter wheat and rape, and for the first time ever, we have 400 hectares of winter barley, and that's all looking absolutely beautiful. It's stunning, because we've had a good autumn and winter, and we got quick emergence and nice tillering, and we really have beautiful full crops, not too advanced, just perfect. And so from that point of view, it's very, very good. Now we're coming on. We will be fine, Michael, if we get rain in July, but if we don't, this will be very safe. This will cut yields again across this part of Europe.
Would you be late, Jim, in terms of where you ideally would like to be?
No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't. I mean, the highest yielding average of beet, we actually start seeding on the 10th of April. If we get nice weather, Michael, the growth would be phenomenal. I would have no problem saying to you that if we see the last few days of April, the beet, and we get nice growing conditions, we would have no problem being closed in the drills by June 21st. No problem, because that's the kind of growth we get.
Right, okay.
No problem with that. And we'll be the same with the maize. We had very bad hail in 2018 on the 16th of May. We lost 1,000 hectares of maize with hail.
Right.
And we started reseeding it on the 20th, and we got good rain in late July and August, and ended up all that hail reseeded stuff averaged over 10 tons a hectare. And anytime we do 10 tons a hectare in corn, we make a lot of money and are very happy. So it just depends on what comes from here.
Yeah. That's not going to force you to change any of your potential cropping plans that you had. You're going to stick
no,
what you have.
Because we would be weatherproofing the rotation quite a bit, because we have a nice mix in there. We've winter barley in because of drought. We're holding the hectares of corn. We have a bit less sunflower because sunflower price is taking quite a hit. And we've introduced sorghum for the poorer areas where we would have put corn in the past, are putting sorghum, because we now have a market for it if we didn't, and we're holding the soybean acres as well, because they just bring it into rotation, and wheat after the soybean. What we're seeing is that if we grow soybean, wheat, then a very good legume cover crop, corn, and then cover crop of rye, and back to soybean, that rotation for us is really wonderful.
And sorghum, Jim, is a new crop for you, is it?
A new crop for us. There was no market for her, Michael, and so it was, you just couldn't sell it. So we have a very good outlet for it now, and quite a bit of interest in sorghum.
What's the new interest in that, or what's the market?
It's cattle feed.
All right, okay.
Cattle feed. And they're using a bit for brewing, as a bit of an interest for brewing. And health foods and different things. In Africa, it's a huge crop. And it grows very, very little rain. So, Michael, the climate is changing worldwide, and drought is becoming more of a problem. You'll see more of these crops like pearl millet coming into low rainfall areas to try and protect people from drought.
You're hopefully going to get all your crops in. You're not going to change your crop rotation much, but I suppose, and you mentioned it, I suppose, already just in terms of because I remember we chatting before, I think it was last year, you had an awful lot of sunflower in because the market was good in that, and they are starting to fall out of that, and oilseed rape a little bit. And there's a huge cost, squeeze going on at the moment. Is there a number of things that you're trying to do to try and preserve the margins that you have?
Well, I probably two the biggest things, Michael. We're investing a huge amount in the digitalization of our business, and that is helping greatly in cutting costs. And the second thing is that we stayed out of the fertiliser market. In November, the input companies were putting pressure on people to sell. A lot of Romanian farmers borrowed money, bought very expensive inputs of fertiliser, and we stayed back out of the market. And unlike at home in Ireland, Michael, the importers have to buy it and import it, get it onto the island of Ireland. Here we can bring it from any direction. So like in mid-February, the price of urea fell to the low 500s. So we waited until then, and we bought 1,500 tons of urea in two tranches, in the low 500s in late February, which was a great help. And like today, you'll buy can in the local market today with cash for 380.
Oh, Jesus, right. That's nearly back to where it was.
From that point of view, it's paid very well. The inputs companies, selling the manufacturers, came with these huge, wonderful price increases, but they met enormous resistance here because people didn't have the money, because, there's a number of things after happening in the market here. And, people didn't have the money. They used up their money to buy expensive fertilizers, and the product wasn't being used and wasn't moving. And so suddenly, the salespeople were turning up saying, we'll sell you this, but we'll give you so many packs free. But we have to maintain this price, but we'll give you so many packs free. We bought an Arctic load of Roundup. We're actually only paying for half a truck, because they have to hold their price, to be seen to hold their price. But what it means is that when we buy Roundup, Michael, what we need for killing perennials like the wild grasses and that here, we'll only use Roundup 480 from Monsanto. It's the only product. But we'll buy generics, for very good quality generics, for burning off cover crops and for weeds, weed control. We will seed into a green cover crop, and then 5-6 days later burn off everything. Then, and the crop will end up then to something dead, will emerge out of something dead and clean, and we've really given it a good start. That has very good quality generic, is actually costing us less than €5 a litre now. So there's been a huge correction in the market. People wanted to stiff the prices, but suddenly the demand wasn't there. People just couldn't afford it.
For the more pricey stuff, or the stuff that's maybe more on patent, are you seeing, like over here, we're seeing price increases of on the pesticides side of the house of about 15%, but some are really expensive. Gone up by 50%. Are you seeing some of that there as well?
Oh, that was very much in the marketplace, but that is disappearing now because they're being crucified by generics. And people are saying, hey, we'll use older technology, and we're not paying that price increase. We're just refusing to do it. On the 16th of May last year, the Matif price for wheat was 438. It's 250.55 today. That's the Matif price.
Yep.
So, when you're talking about 400 tons of euro wheat, you have one cost level you can endure. But like when you're down now at this, it's a completely different story. So, and reality has to prevail.
Absolutely, for sure. And look, I mean, it's the same here in Ireland. I mean, look, there's an awful lot of people looking very, very closely at their costs, and it's the margins just seems to be disappearing day by day, especially with the given weather that's here too.
Well, it's not a pretty picture, Michael, at all.
No,
it's not a pretty, and the squeeze on land availability, because about 40% of tillage land in Ireland is rented, and the squeeze and the availability from dairying, and that is a huge problem. It's just a very, very serious problem for the industry.
It is, for sure. Can we maybe switch tack a little bit? And we talked about a little bit of your machinery outfits before, and it was just it might be interesting maybe for lots of our listeners to listen or to talk a little bit about your spraying and how you have that set up, because obviously you have huge acreage there that you have to get over a number of different times. What sort of, I suppose if you're an Irish farmer, the bigger ones anyway, at least, you probably have about a fleet of 6 or 7 or maybe 10 self-propels out there. What sort of machinery do you run for the machine, for sprayer? We
have one self-propelled, and we only have that for high clearance work in sunflowers and in odd time in corn. And the rest, we're running 6,000 litre, 36 metre trailed and 220 horsepower tractors. We can't afford self-propels. I think when we bought the businesses, we got all different makes of sprayers. We got Hardys and John Deeres and Amazones and Coons, and all were very good. But Stuart Platt, who many of the listeners will know, persuaded me to go Landquip, and they are built in England using French 36 metre aluminium booms, Palmier booms, and they're very simple and very robust. Like the first one of those we bought in 2015. She worked in 2015. She's 8 seasons done. The lowest amount she's done in a year is 10,000 hectares. So she has north of 80,000 hectares, 200,000 acres. How much would a self-propelled cost me to do the same work?
That's a big area for sure. It's huge.
And what's wonderful, Michael, when she's standing in the line with the 5 trail sprayers standing together, because we had them in the yard recently all together, because we had 5 last year. We got 4 new tractors, and we got 1 this year, and the 5 new tractors were on the sprayers. And she just doesn't look out of place with them, and so Michael, it's having very low fixed costs for times like this is what's so important. I was asked to speak at a thing in Ireland recently, and I showed a picture of a tractor that came in February 2018. She's a spraying tractor. She's two of the guys who probably do the most spraying. But in December, that tractor, she wasn't 5 years old till this February, but in December she had 11,300 hours. And that was it. All she ever did was spraying or spreading fertiliser. So yes. The point is, we can't, convenience for a guy at home to go spraying and he self-propelled is wonderful, but we can't afford that because with the amount of work we're doing with each machine, they just have to get on with it, and they have to be simple, and they have to be robust, and they have to be reliable.
Sure.
And that's what we've got.
Just in terms of the acreage that you're working on, which is quite substantial, I presume then that are you working on lower water rates and, or what sort of that do you work?
Well, no, Michael, we're like everybody else. Roundup is at 100, 120. Fungicides, if conditions are nice, we're at 150 litres of water a hectare. But a huge amount of our spraying is done at 200 litres of water. But to that end, Michael, we have, for each sprayer, we have an English company who build out tankers in Poland. We have 15,000 litre tandem axle water tankers with pumps and storage and all built into them. So we have wonderful. So we'll basically have 2 sprayers and 2 15,000 litre tankers. And what we will do sometimes, in one of the businesses we bought, there's a 25,000 litre truck water tanker, stainless steel one, a really good one. It came second-hand from Germany. We will actually park that where the guys are spraying. If we've a huge amount of spraying in one area and we're under pressure for spraying, we'll park that there, and the 2 water tankers will keep filling her. And they'll come fill it and go off and get refill again. They won't stay hanging around. And the sprayers, then the truck will move, and we have a big long pipe. They don't even fold the booms up. They'll fill. It's again about logistics. And the other thing is, Michael, that a huge amount of our spraying is done at night because it gets too hot during the day. Really, we need to stop at 23 degrees during the day. So very often by 11 o'clock, we'll stop spraying, and it's maybe 7 in the evening again. So what we do in those, when the weather breaks like that, is what the driver will do from 7 in the evening till 9 or 10 in the morning, and then he has a night off, and he does the next night. He does every second night.
Okay. I presume you're all GPS'd up, Jim, and all that kind of things. But
absolutely. Everything. And Michael.
Yeah.
Michael, I said to you that we know we're spending a lot on the digitalization of agriculture. But because we're growing so much row crops, we're actually putting in tram lines into row crops.
Right.
We block off two rows because we're on 36 meters. So all our seeders, all our row crop seeders are now 12 meters or 24 rows. So we're on 36 meter seeding. So 3 rounds around the field with the seeder, tram line in the middle round. It's like long ago when we started with the 4 meter seeders, 4 meter masses and the tram line and 12 meter sprayers. We're back to the same thing, except we're now seeding with 12 meter seeders and 36 meter sprayers. And it's the same thing. And then on the Trimble Precision IQ software, we'll have every field uploaded in the seeding tractors. And those maps will be uploaded in all the spraying tractors. So they don't even have to look where to turn in. But we'll take out the tram so we can use wide tyres for as long as possible so that in the min-till and the no-till we're not making ruts. So we will be on 650s for a huge amount of our spraying because of that. And beautiful thing is when the guys are seeding, even at night, particularly at night, it'll show, say the two seeders together, the same thing will show on the two screens. They'll see how much of the field is seeded. And one of the guys will go off and he'll put in all the tram lines. And then he'll work back along the field and the other guy will work towards them. And they'll seed out the field. They put it on. So, and like with fertiliser spreading now, it's the same, Michael. All our fields have 36 metre blocks, 36 metres by 36 metres. So you can just click on it and it'll show you how many kilos of fertiliser went on that 36 metre square.
Okay.
Down along through all the fields with this software. And the other thing is, Michael, our sprayers do an awful lot of fertiliser work. Because we not so much this year, we have Schaefer stream bars for UAN, and then we have American EasyJets, drop pipes for putting UAN on corn that the pipe will drag along the corn row.
Oh yes. Okay.
A trailing pipe. So if it's very dry, we'll mix half water and half UAN, and it'll put it along the row, and we'll get it going pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me, just in terms of, and you'd often see it, I suppose, maybe in more dryland kind of countries, that there's I suppose, sprayer technology is now developing to the extent where they can, use cameras to spot spray in different places, that kind of thing. Do you ever see yourself, or have you looked into that, or is that in any way useful in the type of farming outfit you're on?
I've had 2 different companies here with us trying to sell us the technology. But if you have 700,000 euros to spare for a 36 meter self-propelled with that technology, send it on to me.
Right. You could be waiting for that one now, Jim, just at my end of it.
Michael, it's a wonderful technology, right?
Yeah.
But I keep saying to people, we keep this modern fleet of machinery, that fan, 110 degree, 3 bars maximum pressure, 180, 200 litres of water. We'll do an awful amount of very good work with very low levels of inputs. We keep our machinery, will cost us, 100 euros a hectare. It's our leasing bill each year. And that's where we try to keep it. And we can go spending and build up a huge depreciation bill to save 5 euros a hectare on weed control. I mean, because of very good rotation, Michael, our weed bill this year in wheat would be about 9 euros a hectare. and we don't have grass weeds, and we don't have wild oats.
Yeah, even taking 10% off that is it would be a fair feat in itself, and it's very small money at that.
Yeah, for instance, now in the corn, in the corn spraying, like for in the soybean, by feeding the soybean into a cover crop of rye, a rye cover crop, we've enormously cut the soybean weed bill because it really suppresses the weeds in the soybean. And in the corn, we're going in 2 leaves, like after seeding, 5, 6, 7 days, we go with low dose Roundup to clean up everything. And then we have 2 leaves. We go back in this year with a mixture of terbutalis and petoxamid, and with contact and residual, and hope to get out for that. So, we're spending between Roundup and things about €45 a hectare on corn weed control.
Yeah.
So even if we take 15% off that bill, it's very hard to get the
money back for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a great saying as well, Michael. That all this technology is wonderful, but the old saying is, never be the one by which the first is tried, but the last to cast the old aside. You could get, all that kind of new technology. You get a lot of heartbreak. When the weather takes up here, Michael, we have to put 750 hectares in the ground every day. And if you use technology to give you a lot of trouble, well, things go wrong very quickly. So,
and we mentioned, Jim, a good bit, I suppose, about the grain slide and the cost squeeze and that, and obviously the grain has only been going kind of one way. Do you see any saving there, or not saving, but any area where there might be a chink where that might start to go the other way? Is there anything in the market that
we spoke this time last year? We had I remember being on a call with a couple of our shareholders, and they were talking about the price of grain. They were quite stark about it. And I said, look, our view from here is that the price in the market doesn't reflect the availability of stocks. I would say today the availability of stocks doesn't deserve this price. I think there's an issue. Three things as far as we are concerned, we're watching very carefully. The USDA report is formulated, which the whole world watches, is that America will seed 91 million acres of corn. That's 37 million hectares. That it will average 11.5 tons, which is never done before.
Yep.
Okay? That's the first thing. Watch America. If that starts to fall apart, then I was very lucky to have dinner recently with the global head of seeds for one of the big 3 seed companies, global seed companies.
Yeah.
You know how Cargill and all the guys have now moved out of Russia?
Yeah.
Well, the seed companies were invited to meetings in Russia to be told, if you want to deal in our country now, you have to become a minority shareholder, 49% shareholder in a Russian company. The oligarchs are taking over all that now. Okay?
Yeah.
He was absolutely adamant. People are underestimating the drop in production will happen in Russia. For instance, they reckon Russia has only enough sunflower seed bought to grow enough to meet their own supplies. And they were becoming very big sunflower exporters. Okay?
Okay.
The drop in production in the southern Ukraine, especially now with late seeding, will be significant because that's all the war area from the Crimea to the Russian border. A huge amount of that will not be seeded. And again, from the meeting with this guy, they reckon that the northern Ukraine is where the grain maize is planted, that there will be a 40% reduction in maize plantings, which competes with Irish feed wheat. So I wouldn't... Look, you've got to be sensible and maybe sell some forward, but I wouldn't... Well, you're never dead 5 minutes before you're dead, put it that way. And I think there's more light in the end of the tunnel maybe than we think. And as the seeding date moves back small for all of us, the odds are getting worse for high yields are shortening all the you know.
I know that there's Poland and there's a few of the countries around Ukraine are kind of nearly trying to ban the grain coming in. Is there any sense of that in Romania? Or
basically, Michael, what's happened? You take here in my county, I'm sitting in my office. 2/3 of the way down the county. I'm 60 kilometres from the Ukraine border.
Yep.
The local farmers here, the grain started coming across and they started buying it. We had a very bad harvest last year. So suddenly they said they'd buy cheap grain from the Ukraine to pay their rent. And then they started passing it off and selling it as Romanian grain, right? Okay. And then she decided to the stores on full. I've made very good money. I'm going to fill my stores with Ukrainian grain and it'll be a great price and we'll all be happy. The reason the guys in Poland and the guys here in Romania want the borders closed is they actually want to clear out their stores.
Right.
As I said to you, Michael, the Matif price was $4.38 in May last year. It's $2.50 today. The traders are offering for July $1.85 in the market today here if you want to sell wheat forward. So what they're trying to do is it's 65, 70 euros discount, which would be abnormal to the Matif price here. What they're doing is they want to flush out all the stuff that's in store, and the problem here in this market and the problem in Poland hasn't been caused, Michael, by Ukraine grain. It's been caused by the markets have fallen everywhere. The Matif price is the indicator. Markets have fallen globally. It's all that's wrong with the guys shouting thing is that they've been left holding the baby because they went and bought this grain at a much higher price than it is now.
Okay, and they're trying to hold out for as long as they can. One would presume that to try and get their money back.
There you go. Mm. And the way they think that they'll solve this is to stop the Ukrainian grain coming in. No, it won't. They've probably got to get rid of the grain out of their stores to be ready for harvest.
And stores are that full everywhere in this
area here. I mean, the number of guys in this area, Romanian farmers. I mean, we deal with an input seller and bank. They have both, right? Yep. They'll sell you the inputs very cheaply, but then they will sell you a finance package to finance it. Agricover their names. We had a visit from them there about 6 weeks ago. I never saw guys more worried. They said, hope you have plenty cash reserves because he said there'll be plenty of businesses for sale. Because guys have been so stupid. They went out, maximized their credit lines to buy expensive fertiliser in the autumn, €1,000 a tonne urea, €1,300 a tonne DAP.
Yeah.
Bought Ukrainian grain, filled their stores, and they're all going to lose €100 a tonne at least in it. And so, and at that time, we had very low water reserves, and it looked like we were going to have another drought. Mm. And so, this is what's happened. And it's, Michael, the two reasons people don't make money: fear and greed.
As you mentioned Russia there, Jim, and you talked about the big traders, or I don't know what they might call it. It was a polite way of saying they were invited to leave. Any idea what that?
No, it wasn't. No, not at all. They weren't. No? They really liked them to stay, but that their companies now would be 51% owned by a Russian oligarch, and they'd own 49%. And you can provide, like the seed companies were told, you provide all the technology, all the genetics, everything, but you only own 49% of the business. And of course, the seed companies laughed and said, "Good luck, lads, we'll see you." You know, so that's what has been happening. You know, in Russia, they want to control everything themselves,
and similarly to the grain traders as well, Jim, the Cargills and the Bungys of this world.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And they said thank you. That is the word we're hearing. They said thank you, but no thank you.
Right.
We'll do our own thing from elsewhere.
And is the thinking then that Russia is going to go backwards quite quickly then in terms of its ability to produce and I suppose distribute or get the grain out of the country, which is probably the big one.
Well, they will be able to get it out of the country, but like they will be giving credit and they will be doing all kinds of things that they're not used to doing. So, and there will be a drop in production. Because I'm familiar with a farm in southern Russia, which is about the same size as us, and it's actually English owned, and they have to report every month the number of employees and the taxes they've paid. If they drop the number of employees, their farm will be nationalised and taken off them. They're already looking for an excuse to take it off them. But the big problem they have is they've lost 3 of their young team. They've lost 2 farm mechanics and their best driver to the war.
Okay.
And that's becoming an issue. And the supply of spare parts. And I mean, these guys had a very bad harvest last year. and to keep everything in place, to keep the business being taken off, and they actually had to sell their combines last autumn for next to nothing to get some cash in the system or lose the whole lot, and use contractors, Russian contractors next year. So this whole thing is, going to be a problem on the supply side for the Russians and for the world market. So that's why I'm saying to people, I wouldn't just panic yet, on the grain price. But look, I think we said this before that, Michael, the thing that kills high prices, the demand side drop. The guy didn't put in the extra batch of chickens because the prices were just too high.
Sure.
400 euros a ton was ridiculous. But 200 euros a ton with current inputs and land rentals ain't going to work either.
No.
And so somewhere in between, we got to try to make sure. But the market will pay the market price. The market is an agnostic. It doesn't care about your pain.
But I suppose to finish off on an optimistic note, Jim, what you're saying, or what I'm hearing, or maybe I want to hear it, I'm not sure which, that there hopefully will be a bit more light at the end of the tunnel. It's not maybe all bad news in terms of grain for the coming months.
Exactly. The Argentine harvest has been an absolute disaster, and that story continues to get worse. Yeah, Brazil are having a very good time, but if North America doesn't have a good time, if it has an average season, even, it will put pressure on. So there's, and remember, Michael, high fuel prices drive commodity prices. So, I wouldn't give up hope yet.
Don't panic yet.
Yeah.
Jim, that's brilliant. Thanks very much for your input. You always have a great perspective on not only what's happening in your part of the world, but the whole thing in general. So again, thanks very much for that.
No problem. No, my pleasure, Michael. My pleasure.
So that's it for this week, and my thanks to Jim for joining me on the show. If you want to find out more about Jim's farm, search through previous episodes on whichever podcast app you use. Keep an eye out for local Teagasc walks coming up in April and early May throughout the country. For more details on this, go to teagasc.ie/events. Finally, don't forget, if you enjoyed the podcast, and recommend it to a friend or colleague. And as always, rate, review and follow on Apple or Spotify so you never miss an episode. And for more information, go to teagasc.ie. I'm Michael Hennessy. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week with more tillage news and advice.